The carnival was alive with shadows, the twisted remnants of laughter and light flickering across the peeling paint and warped metal. From somewhere beyond, the unmistakable voice of the carnival barker boomed out, slicing through the thick silence like a blade. Step right up, step right up. Witness the spectacle of your own failings. Face the ride where the truth is twisted and your sins laid bare. His voice was a grotesque melody, equal parts invitation and curse, resonating with manic glee that set my skin crawling. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon me, the cursed laughter curling like smoke around my thoughts. The barker's gaunt figure emerged from the shadows, his coat shimmering faintly under the carnival's sickly neon glow. His eyes glinted with cruel delight, and his grin spread wide, sharp and unyielding. "Come now," he called, "don't keep your sins waiting." Reluctantly, I stepped forward, the boards creaking beneath me as I approached the entrance of the ride. The sign above read simply, "The Hall of Reckoning." Painted in chipped letters and surrounded by faded images of distorted faces, it promised a journey into the darkest corners of my conscience. The door groaned open, a maw leading into darkness, and I was swallowed by the suffocating gloom. Inside, the air was heavy and stale, thick with the scent of mildew and forgotten memories. Flickering bulbs cast uncertain glimmers on the warped mirrors lining the narrow corridor. Each step echoed, a hollow sound swallowed quickly by the oppressive silence. As I moved deeper, my reflection fractured and multiplied across the distorted glass. Faces stared back at me, twisted, monstrous, grotesque, bearing the weight of shame, anger, and regret. One reflected a sneer, another a silent scream. The images were not just mine. They were the culmination of every moment I had failed, every choice that had chipped away at what little light remained within me. The cursed laughter began softly at first, a low ripple beneath the pounding of my heart. It grew steadily, swelling into a maddening chorus that filled the air, reverberating against rusted metal and cracked paint. The sound seeped into my bones, tightening its grip, a relentless reminder that escape was impossible. I tried to close my eyes, to shut out the images and the sound, but they forced themselves into my mind's eye with cruel persistence. Flashes of memory intertwined with the carnival's horrors, a betrayal unspoken, a moment of cowardice, a glance turned away from suffering. Each one struck like a blow, raw and unforgiving. Suddenly, the mirrors began to warp further, the faces melting into one another, forming a grotesque tapestry of my failings. I staggered, the room spinning as the laughter crescendoed into a piercing shriek. The carnival barker's voice cut through the chaos again, sharp and taunting. "See what you've done, lost soul. There's no hiding here." I forced myself to steady my breath, the oppressive darkness pressing in from all sides. Somehow, amidst the torment, a flicker of something unyielding sparked within me, a stubborn ember of defiance. Was this the beginning of acceptance, or merely another trap in this endless nightmare? The ride came to its end with a sudden jolt, the door creaking open to reveal the barker standing beneath the flickering lights. His shadow stretched long and menacing, eyes gleaming with the weight of judgment. "Remember this, for the carnival never forgets," he whispered, voice dropping to a sinister growl. As I stepped back into the sickly glow of the midway, the cursed laughter ebbed but did not fade. It lingered like a poison in my veins, a reminder that the journey was far from over. The barker's challenge had been issued, and I was forced to confront not only the sins of my past, but the relentless torment that awaited with every turn of the Ferris wheel. I swallowed hard, steeling myself against the dread that coiled in my gut. The carnival was a mirror reflecting every fracture in my soul, and I could no longer deny the truths it revealed. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the crushing weight of guilt and fear, a fragile hope began to bloom, a hope that perhaps, through the torment, there might yet be a way out. But the laughter, it never truly ceased, and neither could I. The next ride awaited. I moved cautiously through the carnival's labyrinthine alleys, the gaudy colors of the tents muted beneath a suffocating grey haze. Somewhere close, the cursed laughter pulsed soft at first, then swelling like a tide, a cruel chorus that mocked the very beat of my heart. As the Ferris wheel's slow rotation echoed in the distance, a sudden stillness fell over the path, as if the carnival itself was holding its breath. Then, out of the shadows, they emerged, pale, insubstantial figures drifting on the edge of vision, their forms flickering like disturbed reflections in a warped mirror. The shadow children, silent, watchful, and utterly devoid of life, they gathered like ghosts summoned from a forgotten graveyard. Their carnival clothes hung in tatters, faded and stained, the remnants of laughter long since silenced. Their faces were featureless voids hollows where eyes, mouths, and noses should have been, yet I felt them watching me, weighing the sins I had tried so desperately to bury. I stopped dead in my tracks, breath catching as one figure stepped closer, its translucent hand extending toward me. I recoiled instinctively, but the cold touch brushed my cheek, not with malice, but with a sorrow so profound it crushed the breath from my lungs. In that moment, the fog around us thickened and shifted, revealing a fragmented vision, a memory I had locked away in the darkest recesses of my mind. It was a cruel scene from my childhood, a betrayal so subtle and yet so devastating that it had haunted the edges of my conscience without ever fully claiming recognition. A friend I had abandoned, left to suffer alone while I turned away. The faces blurred, the voices muffled, but the guilt was as sharp and raw as if it had happened yesterday. The shadow child's touch was a reminder that these sins, though forgotten by the world, were etched indelibly upon my soul. A sudden, piercing cackle shattered the fragile silence. The laughing clown appeared, stepping from the shadows with grotesque grace. Its exaggerated grin stretched impossibly wide, the hollow eyes gleaming with cruel delight. It danced around me, each step punctuated by that cursed laughter, a sound that drilled into my mind and refused to relent. The clown's presence was a tormentor, a living embodiment of my fears and self-loathing, and it reveled in my unraveling. I wanted to scream, to run, to bury myself beneath the carnival's rotting tents and escape this nightmare. But the shadow children remained, their silent vigil unbroken, a spectral jury that judged my every falter. Their presence was a mirror to my soul, reflecting sins I had hoped would remain hidden forever. Summoning every ounce of courage, I pushed forward, my feet dragging through the mist that curled around the carnival like serpents. The figures receded into the shadows, their judgment lingering like a cold weight upon my chest. The cursed laughter crescendoed, filling the air with its merciless echo, but within me, something had shifted. I was no longer merely a victim of the carnival's horrors. I was a participant in its cruel game, forced to confront the darkness within. The path ahead was uncertain, and the burden of the shadow children's silent watch was heavy. But somewhere beneath the fear and despair, a fragile thread of resolve took hold. I had no choice but to face the memories, the sins, and the relentless punishment that awaited me. The carnival's nightmare was far from over, and the next rotation of the Ferris wheel promised deeper revelations and darker truths. With a trembling hand, I reached out toward the next ride, the cursed laughter echoing behind me like a shroud. The shadows lengthened, and the carnival whispered my name, beckoning me into the abyss of my own guilt. Shadows spilled from the carnival's twisted lights, pooling like ink on the cracked glass of the gondola where I sat. The air was thick with the scent of stale popcorn and rusting metal. But beneath it all lurked something far fouler, miasma of guilt and dread that clung to my skin like a second shadow. I pressed my forehead against the cold window, eyes searching the warped reflections that danced before me. The carnival's lights flickered erratically, their colors bleeding into one another like a fever dream. Somewhere in the distance, the cursed laughter echoed mocking, relentless, impossible to escape. It wrapped around me like a vice, tightening with every beat of my heart. Images began to flicker in the glass, not reflections, but memories fractured and fragmented, like shards of a broken mirror. At first, they were vague, a whispered conversation in a dimly lit room, the cold touch of betrayal beneath a pallid moon. Then, sharper, more painful, the faces of those I had wronged, their eyes accusing and hollow. I recoiled, my breath catching in my throat. "No," I whispered, desperate to turn away, but the carnival would not be denied. The Ferris wheel's slow ascent carried me higher, and with it, the sins I had buried deeper than memory clawed their way to the surface. From the darkened edge of the carnival, a shape emerged, the laughing clown, its grotesque grin stretched impossibly wide, teeth gleaming like shards of broken glass. Its hollow eyes locked onto mine, and a chilling laughter spilled from its cracked lips, weaving through the air like a sinister melody. "You can't hide," it hissed, voice dripping with malice. "Not here, not now." My hands clenched into fists, nails biting into my palms. I wanted to scream, to run, to erase the memories that threatened to drown me. But the clown's laughter echoed louder, filling every corner of the gondola, seeping into my bones. It was the sound of judgment, of punishment manifest. As the Ferris wheel creaked at the apex of its rotation, a figure appeared beyond the carnival's twisted tense mirror. Her silver hair shimmered like moonlight through the hazy gloom. Her pale face was calm, expression unreadable but for a faint sadness in her eyes. "You must face it," she said softly, voice barely rising above the laughter. "Only through acceptance can you find the path." I wanted to believe her, to grasp at the fragile hope she offered. But the weight of my guilt was a crushing stone, and the carnival's horrors pressed in from all sides. Below, the shadow children gathered, their ghostly forms swirling like fog. They whispered in voices that were not voices, naming sins long forgotten yet never truly erased. The gondola began its descent, the world warping around me. I was caught between two worlds, one of nightmare and one of reality, each indistinguishable from the other. The carnival was not just a place, it was a reflection of my soul's torment. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply, the laughter fading to a distant echo, replaced by the pounding of my own heart. Denial was no longer an option. The sins I carried were mine to face, and the Ferris wheel's rotation was the turning point. As the ride slowed, the carnival's grotesque lights flickered once more. The next revelation awaited, a deeper wound yet to be uncovered. But for the first time, a flicker of resolve stirred within me, a fragile ember amid the darkness. The carnival was not finished with me, neither was I finished with it. And so the wheel turned again, carrying me toward the unbearable truth. The sun had long since disappeared behind the horizon, leaving only the garish glow of carnival lights to illuminate the night. The Ferris wheel's gondola swayed gently, suspended between heaven and hell. I traced the condensation on the glass with a trembling finger, watching as the images within shifted and morphed. Each fragment of memory was a puzzle piece, jagged and stained with regret. Faces I had tried to forget leered back at me, friends betrayed, promises broken, moments of cowardice and cruelty. The carnival turned these sins into grotesque spectacles, a carousel with horses bearing the faces of those I had harmed, their eyes hollow and accusing. A hall of mirrors reflecting distorted versions of myself, each more monstrous than the last. The laughing clown's presence was constant, a malignant force that thrived on my fear. It appeared suddenly, materializing from the shadows with a twisted grin. Its footsteps echoed on the rusted metal beneath the gondola, and its laughter rang out, sharp and unyielding. "Face yourself," it taunted, "or be lost forever." I swallowed hard, fighting the urge to look away. But Myra's words echoed in my mind. Acceptance was the key. The clown's laughter was a curse, yes, but also a call to reckoning. Outside, the carnival buzzed with a sinister energy. The carnival barker's voice boomed across the grounds, announcing new horrors with gleeful cruelty. The shadow children drifted silently, their presence a reminder that no sin could truly be forgotten. As the Ferris wheel creaked once more, I felt the weight of my past pressing down on me, suffocating and relentless. Yet beneath the suffocating dread, a seed of understanding took root. I was not merely a victim of this cursed carnival, I was its prisoner, bound by my own guilt. The gondola tilted as it passed the apex, and I braced myself for the next revelation. Whatever truth awaited, I knew I could not turn away. The carnival demanded confrontation, and I was running out of time. With a final breath, I opened my eyes, ready to face the sin that would shatter my denial and force me into the abyss of self-acceptance. The ride was far from over. Night deepened as the Ferris wheel rotated, each turn peeling back a layer of my soul's darkness. The carnival's surreal horrors enveloped me, blending nightmare with waking reality until the two became indistinguishable. The cursed laughter was no longer just a sound. It was a presence, a living thing that clawed at my sanity. Through the glass, I glimpsed the twisted carnival below, booths manned by spectral figures, rides that twisted impossibly into the sky, and the ever-watchful eyes of the ringleader lurking just beyond the shadows. The carnival was a labyrinth of torment, and I was lost within its heart. The laughing clown appeared again, its grin wider than ever, eyes gleaming with malice. It danced around the gondola, its voice a chorus of mocking echoes. "You cannot hide from what you are," it whispered. "The truth will consume you." I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the torment, but the memories surged forward, unstoppable and merciless. I saw the moments when I chose selfishness over compassion, silence over truth. The faces of those I betrayed haunted me, their pain a mirror reflecting my own fractured soul. Then, as if summoned by my despair, Myra appeared once more at the carnival's edge. Her calm presence was a stark contrast to the chaos around me. "Acceptance," she urged gently. "Only through acceptance can the cycle be broken." Her words pierced the darkness, offering a fragile thread of hope. Yet the carnival was relentless, and the shadow children swirled closer, their ghostly whispers echoing forgotten sins that clawed at my mind. The gondola began its descent, the carnival lights blurring into streaks of color. With every rotation, the past and present collided, and I stood on the precipice of a truth I could no longer deny. The Ferris wheel turned, carrying me deeper into the heart of my own nightmare, toward the unbearable reckoning that would define my fate. And the cursed laughter never ceased. The air was thick with the scent of rusted metal and stale popcorn. mingled with something far fouler like decay and forgotten promises. The cacophony of cursed laughter seeped into my bones, a relentless soundtrack that twisted my insides with every echoing note. Ahead stood the funhouse, its entrance a yawning maw painted with peeling, sickly pastels. The sign, flickering unevenly, read, "Reflections of the Self." I hesitated, the hairs on my neck prickling as if warning me to turn back, but I had no choice. The carnival demanded my passage. Inside, the mirrors were anything but ordinary. Each surface warped and twisted my reflection into monstrous parodies' faces, twisted by rage, despair, and cruelty. The eyes staring back were not mine, but those of a stranger steeped in sin. Whispers slithered from the glass, accusing and mocking. "You lied. You betrayed. You fled." Each phrase was a dagger, cutting through the fragile veil of denial I clung to. My past slithered from shadows into sharp relief, memories flooding like a relentless tide. From there, the carnival's twisted logic led me to the dart-throwing game, a cruel parody of childhood innocence. The targets were familiar faces, those I had wronged, their eyes wide with hurt and betrayal. I threw blindly, each miss a reminder of my failures. The darts that struck seemed to pierce my own heart. Laughter, low and hollow, bubbled around me. The laughing clown appeared suddenly, emerging from the shadows like a spectre of torment. Its painted grin stretched impossibly wide, eyes empty yet burning with a cruel light. It circled me, taunting with silent mirth, its presence a physical weight pressing against my chest. I stumbled away, heart pounding, into the carousel's slow, eerie spin. The horses were no longer whimsical creatures, but grotesque tableaux of my syncidines, frozen in time, vivid and unyielding. A horse reared, its mane transforming into writhing shadows that whispered of broken promises and shattered trust. With every step, the carnival stripped away my defenses, peeling back layers of guilt and shame. The cursed laughter crescendoed, a tidal wave of mockery and despair that threatened to drown me. Yet amid the horror, a flicker of something else stirred within, a desperate, fragile hope that perhaps, beyond the torment, lay a path to redemption. The carnival was no mere place. It was a mirror of my own soul, warped and cracked, but still reflecting truths I could no longer deny. As the rides spun their nightmarish tales around me, I understood that the only escape lay not in fleeing, but in facing the darkness head-on, even if it meant breaking apart to be made whole again. And so I moved forward, drawn by the cursed laughter, compelled by the promise that the final ride on the Ferris wheel might yet offer release or eternal damnation. A hand brushed my shoulder. I turned sharply, but no one was there. The laughter swelled, echoing in my ears as the carnival's nightmare deepened around me. The journey was far from over, and the rides had only just begun to reveal their horrors. I swallowed hard, steeling myself for what was to come. The carnival's macabre attractions were not just punishments, they were revelations. And I was trapped in their merciless grasp. Mira sat cross-legged on a faded patchwork quilt, her silver hair shimmering faintly in the dim lantern light that swayed gently above. The soft glow threw delicate shadows across her pale face, etching lines of quiet endurance and sorrow. I hesitated at the entrance, the cursed laughter still echoing faintly behind me like a distant storm. But something in her serene presence beckoned me forward. "Sit," she said, voice soft but steady, a balm against the relentless cacophony outside. I obeyed, sinking onto the worn fabric, the rough texture grounding me amid the swirl of my racing thoughts. Mira's eyes met mine clear, deep pools of calm that seemed to hold untold stories. "You're searching for a way out," she whispered, as if sharing a secret meant only for me. But you must understand what you're up against. I swallowed hard, the weight of my sins pressing down, the cursed laughter threatening to surge back. Is there truly a way? Or are we all doomed to this endless torment? Myra's gaze didn't waver. I was once like you, lost, drowning in regret and fear. But I found a sliver of peace, not here, but in acceptance. The carnival is a prison, yes, but it's also a mirror. What you see around you is the reflection of what you carry inside. Her words stirred something fragile within me, a flicker of hope I had thought extinguished long ago. How did you find peace? She smiled faintly, the corners of her lips trembling with the memory. By facing what I'd hidden away, by allowing myself to feel the full weight of my guilt without turning away. It wasn't easy. The carnival fights you every step, twisting your fears and doubts. But once you stop running, the path starts to clear, just a little. I looked around the tent, the shadows seeming less oppressive here. Outside, the twisted forms of carnival rides loomed, grotesque silhouettes against the night sky. The distant echo of the laughing clown's manic cackle cut through the quiet like a blade, a harsh reminder that this place was no sanctuary. The laughter never truly stops, Mira admitted, her voice dropping to a whisper. It's the soundtrack of guilt, the echo of all the pain we've caused. But it doesn't have to be your master. It can be a warning, a call to reckon. I swallowed, the words settling deep. And what if I can't forgive myself? What if the sins are too great? Mira reached out, her pale hand trembling slightly as she touched mine. The contact was cold but grounding, a lifeline in the storm. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting or excusing, it's about seeing yourself clearly, accepting the darkness and the light. It's the first step toward breaking the cycle. Her eyes searched mine, hopeful yet cautious. You don't have to walk this path alone. I'm here with you, even if only for a while. The carnival's grotesque laughter faded to a low murmur, the shadows at the edges of the tent seeming to recede. For the first time since arriving, I felt a crack in the suffocating grip of despair. "Thank you," I whispered, voice raw. "I want to try." Mira nodded, a serene strength settling over her features. "Then the journey begins. But beware, the carnival will not give up its prisoners without a fight." Outside, the night pulsed with eerie energy. The twisted rides beckoned, and somewhere nearby, the laughing clown's deranged laughter rose again, sharper and more menacing. Yet inside the tent, amidst the flickering lantern light and Myra's calm presence, I found a fragile spark of hope, a small, precious flame against the encroaching darkness. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with peril and pain, but for the first time, I felt the stirrings of resolve. The carnival's nightmare was far from over, but perhaps, just perhaps, there was a way through the darkness. As I rose to leave, Myra's final words lingered in my mind, a quiet chant against the silence. Face the laughter. Face yourself. Only then can the chains begin to fall away. I stepped out of the tent, the carnival's twisted horrors awaiting, but now armed with a glimmer of understanding and a fragile hope that maybe redemption was not just a cruel illusion. The Ferris wheel loomed ahead, its creaking spokes turning slowly, each rotation a promise of reckoning. And I was ready, or at least I hoped I was. The laughter echoed once more, cursed and chilling, but this time it felt less like a sentence and more like a challenge. The night stretched before me, dark and endless, but I would not turn away. Not now, not ever. The carnival was still watching, still waiting, and so was I.